Welcome to Western New York Tonight. I'm your host, Tammie Lee. Also welcome to all those listening to us on 90.5 FM, WLNF. Joining me today, first in-person meeting. We've talked a great bit on the phone. Marty Gregoire.
Yes,
right. Perfect.
Who
is the founder, and if not just the founder, also the president of Footsteps of Western New York. Welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I could have just continued our conversation before we went live, and just the amazing evolution of this organization that probably you never even initially dreamt would be to the extent that it is today.
Yeah, what started off as a couple years ago, just helping some families by talking to them and sharing my experiences with cerebral palsy. A year ago, just doing a few fundraisers here and there for some families that needed help for rehab, to saying there's got to be more out there. And you get that tug in your heart to want to help somebody, and it kept tugging at me, and I finally kind of pitched the idea to two close friends, and they thought it was a great idea, so I asked them to come along with me, and we're going to be celebrating our first full year as a full 501c3 non-for-profit charity for those with cerebral palsy. So
congratulations.
Yeah, we've come a long way, and it's exciting to see where it'll go.
Okay, and as far as cerebral palsy, is the appropriate acronym, is CP something
CP,
you could use as that? Okay,
yeah.
What is that per se? I mean, what can you say? It's a diagnosis? Is it a progressive illness?
It's a developmental condition. Usually you're born with it. What happens is something happens in the development of the brain that affects the motor part. So the muscles, basically the message from the brain to the muscles isn't getting through the way it's intended. So it's basically telling the muscles, you need to tighten up, you need to tighten up, and constantly asking the muscle to contract. So when somebody tries to move when they have CP, it's hard to do it independently because the muscles are pulling.
So your brain is saying, Marty, you need to go this way, but your muscles aren't letting you do it.
It's constantly firing, sending a message. It basically, your brain and muscles aren't on the same page.
That's not a good thing.
No, and it's a fight, and it's, and the unique thing about cerebral palsy is that, you look at me as I'm sitting here, and that's not what I thought cerebral palsy was.
I would never have guessed you actually had that illness.
Yeah, there's such a vast spectrum from looking at me with spastic diplegia to somebody who has a more involved case that can't get out of a wheelchair, can't ambulate, or can't even speak. Sometimes it can affect their ability to communicate. So we know the need is out there because of that. I know one gentleman who went 19 years of his life before he got diagnosed.
What did he think it was?
That's how mild it was.
Wow, okay.
He didn't know. His family just let him do whatever, and as he got older, he found his body was, kind of fighting more and more, and he finally found the reason. And we're good friends now. He lives in Minnesota, but we talk all the time. We're about the same age, so that's how crazy cerebral palsy can be for some, from a clinical view, medical standards to someone like me that's very mild and able to live a full life.
It's a huge spectrum from what you're describing.
Right, and a lot of times somebody with cerebral palsy may have other conditions associated with it, epilepsy, visual impairment, like I said, the inability to speak, all those kinds of things. So we're here to help those that need the help, and I'm glad to be in a position to be able to do that.
And also, I would say to promote awareness to those who may not really have any sense of what it is, have no friends or family that have that particular circumstance in their life.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you think about somebody with any kind of disability, whether it be cerebral palsy or something else, there's, they all have dreams and expectations of what they want to be in life, and I'm here to use my story as to kind of a message of hope that you can have a full life. And when a parent has a newborn baby and they find out that they have cerebral palsy, that it's not, it's scary. And I have never been through that, that process of hearing that diagnosis. My dad shared his experience when he heard. But if my story helps them realize that you can do things depending on the severity, then that's what I'm here to do.
Don't you think that much of the fear is just of the unknown?
That's a huge part of it. And I think that's why parents like to talk to me. And I started to talk to parents back when I was in college. I had a lot of friends that were physical therapy majors, and they would work in their clinicals with young kids with cerebral palsy. And they invited me to come speak to some of the parents that were afraid of the unknown. And you know, if I was talking to them and telling them just what my life was like up to that point, it put them at ease. And I think every parent has expectations and wants and dreams for their child. You know, they want to see them get on the school bus, you know, and walk down the aisle and go to that job interview, all those things. And when you're faced with a diagnosis of some sort that puts those dreams on hold, even temporarily, or just maybe shifts the road a little bit, then they get, you know, they don't know where to turn. And what I found growing up was that, you know, I got out of college and I wanted to do more. United Cerebral Palsy was here, but that eventually evolved into Aspire. There's no real only CP foundation that I know of locally. We want to be not only a financial asset for those families, but we want to connect those families together and let them know that they're not alone. You can lean on their parents. You can lean on me if you need to. You know, there's help out there, and we are here to help.
I didn't even realize that that was a transition to Aspire. So, I mean, I'm learning so much from you.
Yeah.
It's helpful to really know that.
And they do great things, Aspire.
Yeah, they've been on here.
Yeah,
you know?
and you know, and it's, you know, they help a lot of people with cerebral palsy. And I guess I only picked cerebral palsy because it's what I know about.
Yeah.
And I just know that with my challenges financially to pay and manage my own condition, which is light from medical standards, you know, I have to stretch every day. I have to get massages, which aren't a bad thing. I go to chiropractic, I go to acupuncture, and luckily I'm able to work and have a job that has health insurance that I can have those things. Some people have such severe cases of CP, they're not able to provide for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, something as simple as, you know, a shoe lift, which you see here. When I was born, my left leg was shorter. It's just a developmental thing. So for basically 29 years of my life, I walked around with a bent right leg to compensate. Well, after I had surgery, the doctor said you should get a shoe lift. Well, every time I get a pair of shoes, I have to get a shoe lift put on.
Yeah.
And that costs another $90 on top of every pair of shoes.
Expensive pair of shoes that you buy to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I try to, I'm not like if I were a fashionable guy, I'd be in trouble. But, you know, add a lift onto that. If I needed a custom orthotic, those are about $400.
We're sporting your stylish
Oh,
shoe
look at
there.
that. They're beat down because I wear them as long as I can.
But what, I mean, it is an interesting fix that could have really helped so much sooner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You struggled with that, you know, that difference, it sounds like, for a long time.
Yeah, if you think about how a body works mechanically, it's designed to work a certain way. And when you have CP or any kind of developmental disability, those muscles are pulling on joints. Your joints aren't working the way you're supposed to. Over time, all that contracture becomes permanent. So then, like, I have a bend in my knees when I walk, and I can't reverse that.
Because of that disparity to begin with.
Right.
That uneven
Right, that uneven
gait.
walking, and just the fact that the muscles were tight. Now, I was privileged enough to have a surgery called selective dorsal rhizotomy.
I want to hear all about your background. You haven't really, can we start from the very beginning?
Yeah, that's fine.
Leading up to that.
You know, that's great.
And it's such a great thing. We have an hour, but it's going to go real fast.
Yeah,
So I know that's precious time. Talk to us about, you know, when did you find out? When did your parents find out? When did you realize that you had that diagnosis?
Well, I guess it's a great thing because I love my parents very much, and I come from a family of 16 kids where I'm the youngest.
Come on.
Yeah, I guess I don't know any different. But,
Wow, that's great.
As much as people couldn't imagine being the youngest of 16, being an only child, yeah, we could swap stories or Christmas presents,
there
whatever you want to do. But, you know, my mom and dad never used the term cerebral palsy. They never used disability. All I ever knew is that I had to work harder to keep up with my brothers and sisters, and they were nice enough to let me run with them and play sports and encourage me. They didn't coddle me, which encouraged me to try. And I think that made the difference in how I look at who I am and what I've become, because I never let it get in the way. Yes, I have cerebral palsy. It doesn't define who I am or what I can be. It's just a part of me. And I think as I got older, probably even into college, that's when I started to say I have cerebral palsy. And people say, well, what's that? And then it was an opportunity to educate them. So, and then I have surgery to help with it. And next thing I know, I'm meeting families, and now I'm proud, because as you meet those families, your stories bring you together, but your scars that you share with their kids, because they've had the same procedures that you have, those scars bond you for life. And I've got friends all over the world with cerebral palsy, young and old, that I keep tabs on, and that we encourage each other to do the best we can. And it's a cool thing.
So you're able to say, well, I had that particular surgery last year. This is how I kind of managed it and all of that.
Right, because anytime a parent, and not every surgery is for everybody with CP, but if a parent's thinking about having their son or daughter have a procedure done, that's scary.
Yeah, it is.
Even if it's tonsils.
Right. No doubt.
So, a spinal surgery was the first one I had, and I had to learn to walk all over again.
Well, I'm going to ask you to stop there, because I want to know the details of what kind of progression that you had to go through to be able to, maintain your ability to move and to operate like you do now, to be able to be so successful in Footsteps of Western New York. We're going to go to break, but we have just a few minutes before we do. I want to plug this before we go to break for those listening on the radio as well. Tell us again, when did Footsteps of Western New York when was it officially founded? Last year?
Well, we filed the paperwork in 2011. We officially launched March 31st with our first kickoff fundraiser. So our birthday for year 2 is January 24th. So we're excited.
Coming right up.
So we're making a cake. It's going to be a big cake.
And anything happening on that day that we should be aware of?
Not, we're just going to be proud and maybe raise a glass amongst ourselves because of the work we've done. But we usually do our annual fundraisers in March or April. March happens to be Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month.
Okay.
So we always look for that. But we've got some neat things going on with some community members and people that we know, and our friends are doing some great things for us that we always plug. We have a running team doing the Buffalo Marathon on our behalf.
That is so cool.
And they've coaxed me to be part of the relay, and I'm doing the training now. So that's what we're focusing on.
It's all good. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the details of your journey, and also the details of those fun things coming up, so everybody can join in. We'll be here right back on Western New York tonight in just a few minutes, so don't go away.